Good morning. This is the Blaine's World video podcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also listen in on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You get more information about past shows and this show as well at our website, which is behind me, blainesworld.net. I think you can see it there. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. And each week we focus on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce Tony Henry, who's the marketing promotion specialist for Town Square Media, for being my guest today. And Tony, you can feel free to wave to all your fans and friends who are watching this. Okay. And this is the Tony Henry, who's a long time friend. And I always appreciate you, Tony, because you were, I think, actually the very first time I had a producer when I had a radio show back, where was it, what station?
TTM.
Okay, WTTM out of Trenton, New Jersey, right?
Correct,
And
correct.
those are the good old days. And Tony is a marketing promotions specialist now with Town Square Media in New Jersey. For 16 years, he's been helping local businesses get noticed through strategic campaigns across radio, digital platforms, websites, and search engine optimization, guiding them in terms of how to contact with their audiences and grow. And so, Tony, before we talk about that, let me just ask a question I oftentimes ask folks the first time I speak to them. And that has to do with, as a kid, you grew up where?
I grew up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania.
So, as a kid growing up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, did you always know you wanted to be in radio?
I did.
Did you know?
I really did. I enjoyed listening to music back then. I listened to a lot of different radio stations back then, anything from top 40 to classic rock to news, and always would want to be involved in the industry in some way.
What was the first time you were involved in the industry?
Was back on in TTM when I met you, and basically it was through my dad. A matter of fact, it all started back when I was in high school. My school had a work experience program, and I would leave school at like 11 a.m. and head to an internship at that time. And my dad owned, the restaurant, and the radio station was actually in that building that the restaurant was located in. And he knew how much I loved radio. And one day he asked the station owner that came down for lunch if I could visit. And they said, sure. And I started spending my summers and days off, there watching the air personalities produce commercials, go on air, seeing the news director gather stories. Uh, I just caught on from there, and I really wouldn't have happened without my dad's support. And I was lucky to meet uh, so many amazing people along the way. So some are still around today and some have passed, and I'm grateful for all of them for guiding me. Eventually, even John Forsyth, who was a friend of mine and was the news director at that station at the time, took me to the State House, the Phillies games, let me sit in the press box, and even go in to the clubhouse. Um, and I worked with great air personalities too, like Rockin' Ron Cade, Teddy Fall, and of course, the Phillies announcer of today, Tom McCarthy. So straight out of high school, I was hired and the station to the station, and got to run the board, the broadcast on Saturday nights, and handled Flyers and Mets games. Uh, those early experiences really set, the foundation for my career.
Now, that was WTTM. That was, I guess, you were there after Ernie Kovacs was there. That was long before you,
Yes,
right?
yes, that was, yeah, definitely. Yep.
But at one time, that was a pretty big station in the area. I mean,
Yes,
big
yes,
time radio.
it was, and it was country music at the time, and it had a footprint in Mercer, Bucks, Burlington County.
Now, we talked off the air. It's unfortunate they're no longer around.
No, the station's no longer on the air. No.
Bummer. I guess when you left and I left, it was all downhill, right?
Yes, it was.
And then we come back after that. So I met you, Tony, and you were with WTTM, but they'd already gone through some changes because
Mhm.
I think you were there, right, with Mark, was it Mostov was
Yes,
their general manager at the time?
correct.
Okay, and then you were doing, at that time, you were doing producing duties for the station, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So I would
And
produce, programs like yours and an auto talk show and a cooking show. And then, I would run the New York Mets games and the Phillies games and also, the Flyers games.
now, out of those days, what did you enjoy most, doing the sporting events?
Yeah, doing the sporting events, and I was really a news buff back then. I really loved being involved in the news department and community. That seemed to be where I really wanted to be, and that's basically what got me in the door to the promotions department uh, with 94.5 PST was that I was always interested in being out and about with with the station, seeing the listeners and being involved in the community, and that's really what I like to do.
Well, then, if you would update me as to then when you left WTTM,
Uh-huh.
then did you go to 94.5 at that point in time?
Yeah, so then I started at 94.5 PST, which is the top 40 station. And again, that was located in Princeton at the
Oh, that's
time.
right. I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it was owned by Connoisseur Media, and eventually, after 5 years, Connoisseur Media sold it over to Town Square Media, which is where I work today. So I've been with Town Square Media now for 8 years, and they also own New Jersey 101.5. And it was a great next step for me because I wanted to combine my radio and promotions experience with helping businesses grow. So I moved over to the sales side of the business from promotion. So what I love most is that, not 2 days are the same. One moment I'm, helping a local business plan a campaign with all the capabilities we have here. And I could do that through digital and radio. And all through it all, I get, to meet people and help them with their business goals and see, the tangible results for the work we do.
Now, Town Square Media is not just in Bucks County or Mercer County, it's all over.
Correct. So we have several radio stations throughout the country. A lot of them are in the small markets. That's why it's called Town Square Media. So it's in like Shreveport, Boise, Buffalo, North Carolina. Connecticut is the home base, and then New Jersey. So that's just some of the areas we cover. But there's over 300 radio stations across the country.
Do you ever get out to those areas as well? Do they send
I
you?
I have not. I have not, but I would like to eventually do that, especially up in Connecticut.
Okay. Now, what's cool about what you do is the fact that even though people don't realize it, there's still a big market out there for small local radio. It's still
Yes.
a very popular thing. And what really was surprising me, Tony, and I'll ask you to comment on it, that a few years ago, I don't know if they stopped this, but a large number of the manufacturers were going to take out AM radios out of cars. Had you heard about that, or is that still out there?
Yes, yes,
Which
and
what a
and 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 right now they're still in, and for foreseeable future they will continue to be in.
Because what a shame, that because I don't know about you, or I guess you, of course, listen, but when I'm in the car, I still love listening to AM radio, and local
Yes,
radio, and to just end that immediately would have been something. So that's uh,
still around, still happening. Yes,
and people still listen to local radio. It's still a viable uh,
yes.
market. But talk about then the difference between I'll call local radios, AM stations versus FM stations. And you represent both now or just FM stations?
Yeah, we do operate AM and FM stations. Mainly the FMs is what we specialize on at this time. Um, so what advantages there are with radio? Basically, people love listening to local radio when they're in their car or when they're at work, and it's easier now to listen, right? We have apps. We have a streaming on our computer where you can listen at work, right, on the computer. Other ways you can listen too is through, your car still, right? So, and then we also have Alexa, right? So you can say, Alexa, tune on 94.5 PST. So there's a lot of different ways you can listen these days compared to years ago when it was just, you had to be in the circle. And the main reason people listen to radio is it's just not about the music, right? We're not just a jukebox. We're all about the community and we're all about personalities. People listen because they feel a connection between the personality. That's mainly the reason why people listen. They feel like they're a friend of the families. Been listening to them for a long period of time. So it's all about, connection and community.
Well, it's funny you say that because especially here in North Carolina, when we got hit by the hurricane last year, one of the local radio stations was the lifeline to everything. I'm just trying, the name's escaping me, but they did such a great job and they've gotten all sorts of awards that they were the only place where people could find out what was happening in the area. Was that true in like where you are? Did you have things like that happen as well?
Yes, yes, they have. Yep.
Because it was it was just incredible. But like you were saying, the only it was a WWNC, it's Popular News and Talk radio station based in Asheville. They did such a marvelous job, Tony, and that's all people were paying attention to because computers were down. And
Mhm.
I don't know about you, but maybe you advise people to do this. I went out and got an AM radio. I hadn't had a radio in 100 years, but in an emergency, you needed it. So it was the lifeline to the what was happening. And so you have that as well.
Yes, yes.
Hurricanes, you name it, a
You
terrible
name it.
nation.
Yep.
Very exciting. So talk about then, Tony. Your title you're in marketing and sales with the station. What exactly does that entail?
Yeah, so what we normally do is on the sales side is normally I will go out and talk to a prospect or a local business and find out if there's a connection between our radio station and their business. So we both benefit from the connection. And basically, what we do is I will go out and find out more information about their business and see if it's a fit for us and for them. And then basically, what we do is we can put together a campaign that would benefit them through various different capabilities that we have through radio, digital marketing like SEM, email marketing, social link click, streaming TV. So there's a lot of different ways we can reach people as to where they are.
Now, how do you pick up all that knowledge?
So a lot of it is, reading articles and research and interest too. I love being in that spectrum of learning about how the digital works, how radio works, and how it works for our clients.
And the interesting thing, as you're pointing out, is that your clients can then use different ways to reach their clients. So it's not just it used to be AM radio was the only way you could advertise, but now when you put together a campaign, you put together all this together for them.
Yes, yes. We try to combine digital with radio because we know, like in radio commercials, we're giving out the website address to their business. So what's going to happen is they're going to go to their website to find out more information about their business. So radio is a way to connect with people and good for brand awareness. But in the realm of everything, digital plays a just as important part of that as well because it could be in your face, right? At that time. So we try to combine a lot of our marketing with radio and digital together. So we're reaching an entire audience, no matter where they are.
What's interesting, Tony, to listen to you is the fact that, and I'm thinking out loud with you, that radio got into digital, but I don't know, sort of fell by the wayside. Newspapers just aren't what they were, a whole bunch of years ago. And it's a shame because as a kid, said you like the news. I was a newspaper junkie. I would read, 3 or 4 newspapers a day. And now I don't think I read a newspaper at all, but I still do the internet. I still do radio, but I don't hear newspapers too much into that mix anymore.
No, and I used to deliver the newspaper
Did you?
years
Me
ago.
too, as a kid.
Yes, yes. I had 190 homes to deliver to.
Wow. Which paper was that?
It was the Bucks County Courier Times.
Okay, yeah, I was in New York at the time, but 190 homes. Wow. I if I had 60, it was a lot. 190 and the Bucks County Courier Times. And is that paper still in existence?
Yes, yes,
But
it's still around today. Yep.
but just we had it was in and I was in Bucks County. It went from, like Bucks County Courier Times, it went from 48 pages down to 16 or
Hmm.
12 or something like that. So that was a shame. But I guess it points out, and I think you're on top of it, that you got to be willing to go with the times. You have to change as times develop. And that's sort of what you've been doing with the station.
Yes. So the biggest change has been how audience consume media, right? So back when I started, it was mostly radio and in-person events. Now it's about, blending, traditional media with digital and social channels. It's even more about connecting on multiple levels, being everywhere your audience is, but still keeping, campaigns creative and personal.
And talk also about WPST, the station I'm most familiar with when I was in the area. That one of the things I think you guys do so well is you are in the community in lots of ways. So it's just not doing a radio show, but talk about some of the other ways you're involved in the community.
Yeah, so a lot of times we're doing a lot of community events, whether it be a station concert or a Toys for Tots campaign or all different ways to get in front of people and be entrenched in the community. We love doing events. We love being out and being a part of them, and helping out in the community. We work with a lot of local businesses. So it's a lot of fun, and the station has a great heritage too. It's been around for a long period of time, and it reaches families, and that's the main thing is that it's always there. So it's
Do you get
been
to go?
in. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Do you get to go to any of the events? Are you involved in them?
I do. I go to a lot of events, and I see a lot of listeners come out and they'll say, "Hey, I listen to Chris every morning, and she wakes me up," and so it's a lot of fun. We work with Special Olympics New Jersey a lot. We have a lot of local nonprofits that we also work with. The United Way. We do an event with them every year where we have a celebrity bartender where Chris and the crew will go out, and it raises money for the United Way of Mercer County. And they'll do a celebrity bartender, event. But we're very well, we do the polar plunge. We help out with the polar plunge with Special Olympics of New Jersey each year. They do that in Seaside, and then they do one in Wildwood, which will be coming up January 17th, I believe, which is a Saturday. Let me look at my calendar real quick. Yes, 17th.
And as you do that, for the benefit of folks who don't know what the polo plunge is, what is it?
Yeah, so it's freezing for a reason, right? It's to help basically their organization raise funds for their organization. And what you do is you sign up to actually take a plunge into the water in the cold Atlantic during the winter time, and raise money for a great cause.
Do you ever do the plunge?
I have not, but I've been there and I was freezing just being out there. So
Okay.
I
Well,
can't
see,
imagine what it's like to be in the water at that time.
in the same token, you're talking in a pinch. Are you ever on the air? Have you ever been on the air?
I have been on the air in the past. I used to have a show on, and it was just as an air personality. So I did do some on-air work, but mainly my capacity has been behind the scenes, helping out in promotions, being the promotions director. Helping out with the station concerts that we've done and the station promotions, like I said, with the Polar Plunge and the things that we've done with the Toys for Tots campaigns, with the Marines for the holidays, things like that.
Out of all the stuff you do, what's your favorite part of your job?
I love it all. It's just it's different every day. There's nothing is the same. Um, I love seeing results. I love hearing, um, all the great things that we're doing all the time out and about. I don't know what I would be doing if I wasn't working in this industry because I really love helping, local businesses. I love being in the community and, having our stations out in the community is a big important part of that. I'll give you an example. We had an earthquake here in New Jersey last April. And it wasn't a big earthquake, it was very small, but it was enough that where you could feel something was not happen, something was happening. And what happened was everyone started calling in to the radio station. They wanted to know what it was and they wanted to describe what they were feeling. So Chris and the crew got back on the air because it was just after 10 o'clock when they were getting off the air and they started live again with taking people's phone calls and asking them where they were and what they felt and and that's one of the things that is an important part of the radio station. It's that connection between the community and the actual station. And you can see that when there's something important like that happening.
As you mentioned, Tony, it was so good to see when we had the Hurricane Helene, that
Yes.
the local station was on, 24/7 for like a week. It's just and it's so marvelous how they came forward and helped out the community. And they weren't, and I can't believe it, they didn't run advertising the whole week, so it's just to serve the community. But it really stepped forward. And so that's what happens in New Jersey when something like that happens.
Yeah, we get phone calls in here to the radio station. People want to know what's happening, what they were feeling, describe what they felt. Yeah,
And yeah, it's just very exciting seeing it, especially have the station come forward with it. But you
yeah.
mentioned also, probably fun for you, they have different concerts. And talk about that. So that's primarily WPSC runs the concerts. And what are those all about?
Yeah, so back in the day when I was the promotions director, we would produce certain concerts at certain arenas. And it would be our station concert where we would have three or four different artists involved, and we would do meet and greets with, the listeners and the bands, um, and do giveaways of tickets, whether it be regular tickets or front row seats, and meet and greets with the band. It was always a lot of fun. We always had a great response and loved putting on the shows, and it was a lot of fun putting them together and working, the events.
One of the things it sounds like you're doing, Tony, too, is like always you're always looking for the next thing to do. It's like I guess in radio and media in general, you can't just rely on what you did 10 years ago. As you and I saw 20 years ago with local AM radio stations, you have to change, you have to evolve. How have you seen that with your station?
Yeah, so how that has is, ideas. We always try to come up with fun turnkey ideas, especially for our clients. So so it drives traffic and engagement, right? So we love coming up with different ideas. I'll give you an example. Over the summer, we did a thing on PST called the 94.5 PST Summer Cash Cube. And we would take the cube out to different events throughout the summer between May and Labor Day. And we would have people come up and enter a 5-digit code, and it opened up the door. They had a chance to win $50,000. So it's always bringing that fun thing out, and engagement and having fun with what you're doing.
Did anybody win the 50,000?
No one won, no one won, but everybody, you would come out to the event, and we probably had a couple hundred people at each event come out and put a 5-digit code in, and we probably did 10 to 12 of those events throughout the year, throughout the summer. So it was a lot of fun.
Okay. Let me ask you this, Tony, too, and if you want to give a specific example, you can. But you mentioned you had some great success stories. Can you just run me through one or two of them that some local business you work with? And if you want to mention the name, that's up to you. But give an example of how a local business partnered with you and succeeded as a result.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you one. One was a recruitment campaign
Okay.
for a police department, and they were struggling trying to find out how they could actually get recruits
Right.
to, and they were using other ways of advertising. But what we did was we put an advertising campaign together for them with a little digital. And they actually called after the campaign and said they actually had more
Wow.
recruits, sign up than they thought they would be getting because they weren't getting very many when they first started the campaign with other various ways they were advertising it. So they were very happy, and once they were able to do that again, recruitment wise, they said they would come back with us again to do it again because they felt it was very successful for them.
And it's too bad you mentioned that because not too bad in a way. It's good you did, but I know we have the same problem in the Asheville area. Not only with police, but especially with fire departments.
Mhm.
Can't recruit, and yeah, I guess that's a great means to use radio to get people who are listening, and apparently they still listen. There's an example with a nonprofit. Any companies or businesses had a real success story working with you that you can think of or share.
Not offhand, local businesses. Well, we mentioned about the police department, right? There are probably some that I just can't think of offhand. To be honest, I work with 28 clients a month.
Okay.
So
Must
we have
be
so we have
exciting for
quite
you.
a lot of them are all steady though. It's consistency and the campaigns are working for them. So there's not one in particular one that I can point out, other than the police department, because we did hear back from them and they said, they emailed me and said what a great campaign it was for them. So
And I think, like you said, the real key is that if they're advertising with you for a while, and some, I guess, probably exciting for you, some have stayed with you for a whole bunch of years,
yes, yes, it's consistently every year. Yep.
okay, and they're not going to be advertising or going with you if that's not the case. A couple of other questions, Tony, just in terms of you mentioned digital. So I understand the radio. So when they work with you, you also help them establish a digital presence. What are you doing there?
Correct. So what we do is we actually hold a meeting with them and we try to find out what their goals are, what areas they're trying to cover, household incomes, things like that. And what we do is we'll kind of put a campaign together for them with our digital experts as how they feel, would benefit from the campaign. So we actually have a digital sales lead that actually helps us put those campaigns together. And then we also have a bigger creative department that actually creates the actual advertising banners and things that we actually have a creative department that does all the creative.
And the nice thing about that, that's included if they advertise with you. That whole, it's all a package, right? That they get that creative stuff included.
Correct. So the creative is included in the actual, campaign. There's no extra charge for the creative. We do all the creative for them. So we take that off their plate so that they don't have to worry about that. And there's no extra charge for that creative.
And you don't need to have separate people to do that.
Correct.
With you
Yep.
folks, they have it. What do
Yes.
you see yourself, Tony, 10 years from now? Put you on the spot. What do you see yourself doing?
10 years from now, I mean, still doing what I'm doing, but I would say, learning more new ways to do things, because there's always something new to learn, and there's always something new coming out that we need to adapt. So, always looking to learn and help any way I can.
Tony, if somebody wants to get in touch with you or find out more about, I guess, two things, Town Square Media and also PST, what's the best bet?
They can reach out to me. My email address is tony.henry, Henry, at townsquaremedia.com. My phone number here too is 609-359-5359.
And also the website for the media is what?
Townsquaremedia.com.
Okay, so if you want to find out more about townsquaremedia.com, not only in New Jersey, but throughout the, I guess, mostly East Coast, we'd say.
It's all over. We're in like 50 different markets.
Okay, so if you want to find out more about Town Square Media, get in touch with Tony Henry. It would be a great first thought. And this is so exciting, Tony. I said, I remember our days back at, first of all, the restaurant. I remember the restaurant. I love the
Mhm.
restaurant. I didn't know if your dad was around when I was around, but I remember those days. I love that restaurant. And then we were over, you were in Pennsylvania, right? I moved, followed you in Pennsylvania
Yes.
in that building. And those were the days, huh?
Yes. Yes.
But
Yep.
who would have thunk I'd bump into Tony Henry these 20, 30 years later? But it's been a real pleasure, Tony. And I wish you well and keep up the good work. And we'll speak to you hopefully one of these years.
Thanks, Blaine. Thanks for having me and Happy New Year.
Okay, you too, buddy.